to the cloud. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Just going to wait for a few more minutes for more of you to join because we've got quite a few signed up here. I apologise in advance whilst I'm introducing Luke to you because I do have my son right here next to me making some noise, but he seems to have quietened down now, which is all good. So welcome to our second, right on cue. Welcome to our second webinar, and I'm going to be really quick with Luke from 07 Heaven. You want everyone to know you're there, don't you? So Luke joined as a partner of ours in December and I can't remember when your first one was, but it was really, really popular, wasn't it? So I'm going to hand over to you, Luke, and just let me know when you want me to do those polls. And I'm going
No problem, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Luke, and I think we're just waiting for everyone a few more people to join. But this chat's just going to be a quite nice and open chat about social media. We did an original talk on marketing as a whole, and now what we're doing is just sort of diving into the different areas of marketing as people have requested. Hannah sort of asked a few people. We had 16 at the last one, and she asked those what the next stage was, and everyone sort of picked social media. So that's what we've gone for this time. With social media, this is kind of a broad overview of the top 5 social media platforms. Happy to eventually go into a deeper dive into each of them, and at a later date, and actually go through a bit more detail about how to put posts up, how to really drive engagement. But this will be an overall kind of tips for all social media. With these talks, this is my second webinar. I've really sort of stayed away from the webinars during COVID, but I used to do lots and lots of talks for business improvement specialist groups in London and in Essex, where we're based. And I really like the interactivity. So if you do have any questions, I've got the Q&A bit open. I've got the chat pane open. So if there's anything, any questions you have as I'm going along, then please just give me a shout. The sort of the structure for today will be just sort of an overview of the strategy of social media, and then I'll go through each of the individual platforms, and then at the end we'll talk about sort of some tips and some good things, some good ideas for you to start posting going forward. But as I said, any questions during this, then please just give me a shout. I did ask if there was any questions before, so if you have any questions or anything you particularly want answered, please shout them out. I've had a couple of emails from people, and I'll make sure that those are covered as well during the chat. So I'll give it a couple of minutes, maybe 2 more minutes, and then I'll get started.
Sorry, Luke, did you want me to do the polling now?
Yes, yeah. We can start with the poll, and then we can, as people come in, they can sort of just put, and also we can find out.
Cool. Right, I'll launch the polling now.
Thank you.
There you go.
So this is just a poll, basically. What are the social media responsibilities at work? So this is just to get a gauge whether you're the majority of people are managing the system, or managing someone outsourced, or managing something in-house, or if they're actually physically working on it as well, because it may shift the focus a little bit. I want to make sure that I include sort of focusing on the areas that are really important to you guys. The goals for social media, those are just the 4 sort of main goals that for any sort of marketing campaign as well, but really sort of focused in on sort of the social media. And then just understanding out of the 5 platforms I'm going to be chatting about, which ones people use, just so I can spend a bit more time chatting about the ones that people are actually using, rather than obviously spending time on something that's not going to be relevant for you guys.
Okay, most of you have answered, so we'll just maybe give it another few seconds and then we will share those results. So 16 of you have answered. If anyone else is able to answer the poll, that'd be great, and then we'll share them. Okay, so a couple of you haven't responded as yet, but I'll share the polls results now so that everybody can see them. And then Luke can obviously get a feel for where everybody's at. So there we go, we can see those.
Perfect.
Okay.
Brilliant. So majority of people are working on or in charge of and working on. So that's great. Goals, main goals are grow brand audience, which is interesting, which we'll come on to in a second, and which the platforms are using. LinkedIn is the strongest, Instagram, Facebook, and a little bit of YouTube. I was quite surprised with that one, but that's really great. So perfect. What we'll do is we'll get started, and hopefully if anyone joins in at a later date, they'll be able to jump on and catch up or look at the video. So this is just a little bit about us. I'm going to pass this PDF across to people, and I'll send it out at the end via Hannah. So it's just basically an introduction to us. 07 Heaven is a company I started 13.5 years ago. We started off as a web development and graphic design agency with sort of a niche in combining the two. As marketing progressed and we were asked different things from our clients, we progressed our knowledge into search engine optimization, with sort of Google becoming a big focus, and then with sort of social media platforms coming in, and then with anything, with all of these things, when the masses go to a certain place, then normally there's a way to monetize it. People want to monetize it because people are obviously here to make money, and then with that comes the businesses then follow the trends of the user and where there's an audience that they can sell to. So we did social media, paid for, advertising, printing, hosting. So we've done a real range of things. There's 8 people in our team that have expertise in different areas. But social media is something that we're very sort of passionate about, as it's such a powerful tool and something that really everyone can get started on for themselves beforehand, before they have a need to come to us. And even when they do come to us, it's very important for people to be involved in the process of social media, because it really is important for the company identity and the brand to really come across in that, because what you're putting out there is what people are buying into. So if there's a contrast between what your social media says about you and how the company operates, then you're going to lose traction. And although there wasn't a high number of the people that are interested in the conversion side of things, eventually the idea is that the whole point of all this is to make money for the business and to bring in the right kind of clients. So just to show you the poll of in 2021. So the top goals for 2021 is brand awareness and grow my brand's audience, which was top with you guys, was the fourth one, but still a big percentage of people wanting to achieve that. So with the overall strategy of social media, it's really important to understand what kind of levels of the funnel and who you're aiming at, and what the objectives are. Where people struggle with social media and where we find clients that have spent a lot of money or a lot of time and not got a lot of return is by not focusing in on the metrics and what they're trying to achieve. So with growing your brand, it's really focusing in on the awareness of your audience, and to grow your brand is to really make sure that you're sharing things that are branded, that involve your company culture, obviously of a level that suits you guys. So if you're working for a financial company, then the only informal stuff, you want to be careful with your informal stuff. But if you're sort of a funky office space, someone like WeWork, then you're going to want to show a more sort of informal side of things and fun. So with the awareness, it's always making sure that the posts are branded and on topic, so that people are starting to make that association with your brand. They say that it takes 10 times of seeing a brand to start recognizing it and making associations with it. Which is why if you look at all the big boys that do any kind of social media marketing, but also do any other kind of marketing, their badge, their icon, their name is always on it somewhere. So even if it's a case of just a small icon on your on each post that you're adding to it, or a font that fits with your website, all those kind of things will really help grow your brand and the awareness of your brand, and help grow that. Followers and shares are the best way to track that, and to make sure if people are sharing your content, then they're engaging with your content, and also if they're sharing it, more people are seeing it. If your followers are increasing, that's also meaning that more people are going to see the stuff that you're putting out, which is also really, really important. Turning customers into advocates. Really what that means is thinking about wanting people to share your content. So that's a real comment, like, and get people really engaged with what you're putting out. What you'll invariably happen is when you start off, you'll normally have competitors follow you, potential clients, you'll be following clients. And what you need to start doing is to really start making sure you're engaging. So the commenting, liking, mentioning your people within your company, really sort of making sure that there's good information and things that people want to speak about. Think hot topics. You might have heard the term clickbait in the past, so we tend to stay away too much clickbait, but it's basically clickbait is where you put a outlandish title to just make sure that people click on things. Now, we're all for making sure that there's the titles and the images and everything really makes people sort of stop and look at you, obviously keeping within your brand, but we want people to, when they come across, not to find something completely different. So there needs to be that synergy, but getting your comments and likes are really good as well for organically growing your growth. So all of these do work in unison. So I'm sure there's a few people that ticked a couple of different objectives, but if you really focus in on one area, the others will grow with it, but that will be the area that you really grow if you just concentrate on that metric. Drive leads and sales. The majority of us, or even the non-profits, survive on getting people to convert in whatever way, shape or form that is. So with the conversion side of things from social media, it normally works that you'll be pointing them towards something on your website. So a lot of the different platforms allow you to be able to put links in, that point towards web pages that you've got. Really good system is to have a landing page. So when I talk about driving people to the website and driving leads and sales, don't just point them to your homepage. If you've spoken about, for example, if you're a contracted cleaning company and you've spoken about the COVID electrostatic spraying that's really helping things at the moment, don't then point them onto your homepage where you only briefly mention electrostatic. Point them towards a blog post, point them towards your service page about electrostatic, point them towards something called a landing page. A landing page is a page specifically set up. I don't know, well, I imagine you've seen it before, where you've clicked on something that's of interest for you, a free download, a free webinar, and you fill out a form, a bit like the form you filled out for this, but it's got a lot more design. It fits within the website. And what that allows you to do is be able to take the people that you're driving from your social media to your website and then convert them into a lead, because you take their email address, you take their information, you take what they're interested in, and then you can get in contact with them. Grow the brand. Growing your brand, I've put in there twice, which is obviously an error. So apologies about that. The bit here is about, so it's not grow your brand, it's create promoters. So advocates are people that are engaging. Promoters are consumers that have bought into your service, and now we're looking to increase the activity that they're doing. They all talk about, for marketing, the best ways to grow your business are to increase the amount of customers you've got, increase the value of what they're buying, and also increase the amount at which they're buying. So what we want to do is take these people that you've taken all this time and effort to convert, and really get them embracing the brand and being sort of promoters of your brand. So putting testimonials up on about them, mentioning something about their business, of them. An important thing which we'll come on to in a bit later is rewarding people that are doing this with your business, because you want to be able to encourage people to keep sharing, to keep commenting, because all of this stuff is going to help drive engagement to those people that you haven't ever sort of had a touch point with. And that's the goal of all the marketing, is just to increase, obviously, the amount of reach. So you've got a lot more potential customers to look at. So apologies about that. So, excuse me. When you're doing anything with social media and anything to do with your marketing, as far as strategy goes, it's really important to make sure that you know who you're targeting. Who you're targeting is really, really important, and it's the main reason why people fail when they start social media, because they just start and they don't know who they're talking to. The best thing to do is, on this list, which will get sent across, is really think about these questions to ask. It's great. It's a great exercise to ask your existing clients, the good existing clients. We've all got clients that are fantastic, that cause us no hassle. They ask a couple of questions, but warranted questions. They pay on time, all this kind of stuff. Those are the people that you want more of. Whenever we're doing marketing, we obviously want more people coming in. We want more people engaging. We want more clients, but we need to make sure that we're getting the right clients, because the last thing you want is to keep attracting the wrong type of client that's maybe too low value, maybe a drain on your time. We don't want that. We want to be able to grow nice and organically, and with sort of less resistance. So really think about these different areas. If you don't have time to do that, really think about the challenges and the goals and their buying habits, and spend some time on that. The challenges basically means the pain points. So it's the reasons that they object to coming through and buying from you. What's the stuff? What can you do? What can you be putting out there? What can be part of your marketing that stops that kickback? What stops them putting up objections that can mean that your sales team, when you pass these leads over to your sales team, that they're really happy because they're nice and easy to convert, and at least have a conversation with, that you've got a lot of information about. So let's get into the different types of social media. Luckily, LinkedIn was the big one, and that's the first one. So LinkedIn was actually the first out of all the social media platforms to come about. It was originally started as a recruitment platform where basically it was an online CV exchange. It's seen as the most business of them all. Even its main function is business, rather than being sort of more of a social platform that then businesses have joined because there's an audience there that they can sell to. So it's not been kind of shoehorned in as much. Size is 706 million, and it's actually owned by Microsoft, who bought them a few years ago. And that's when they started making a bit more changes and having ads and things like that. So what kind of things can you put out? Articles. Most of these will be the same, but the articles are more formal articles rather than the informal articles that you'd see on other things. Keep them quite, not too highbrow, but make sure that they're of a professional nature. That doesn't mean you can't talk about the charity work or things like that. That's all well and good to talk about. It's more sort of posting stuff about your dinner that you get on some of the other platforms, that type of thing. So keep it nice and professional. Courses, so there's courses on LinkedIn that you can then do, which allows you to update your profile with that course so you're qualified. That's a really good way of sort of showcasing the skill set of your employees. Groups are a fantastic way of getting started. So if you want to increase your outreach, there's great it's groups. Be careful with the groups, because a lot of people just use them to transmit and broadcast rather than receive any information. But find some really good groups, much like the OMP and the sort of the Slack channel and the forum. Find groups like that where people aren't there to sell, they're there to help. And also for yourself, go in there with the aim to help rather than to sell or to market. Think about building connections. With all social media, it's really about thinking about how you would do it in a face-to-face environment, and applying the same sort of tact and techniques as you would do face-to-face on there. So don't go in screaming and shouting. Don't go making a big don't sort of just be sort of screaming at people, buy my service, buy my service, buy my product, buy my product. Just talk generally about things that are that you can have mutually interest in, things like that, and then just be on hand if they do have an area where you can help them, even if it's a case of not being able to help them in the area that you serve. If you know someone that can do that, you're still building that connection by helping them in any way, shape or form, and helping build the trust. Hashtags are used quite a lot on Instagram. What you'll find with all social media is that actually what they do is they start when one emerges, they'll start cherry picking the bits off of the other platforms that they like and start including them on yours, which is really great, because it allows you to be able to, when you create a piece of content, which I'll talk about at the end once we've gone through each of the different platforms, once you've created a bit of content, you can actually share it amongst all the others. What we're looking for, so the outcomes basically on this sheet that you'll get, the outcomes are the types of things that you want to be measuring. Again, it's slightly different with each of them, but these metrics will really help you be able to gauge how you're getting on with things. Because although doing the social media stuff yourself, which a few of you are doing, it's still time consuming. You're still losing time, which is still a resource. And we only have a limited amount of working time each day. So comments and replies, followers, likes, private messages, recommendations from people. It's a really good way of boosting up your profile. They've taken it away from pages, and then shares. So if I second, I'll just quickly whiz you through just to give you a quick overview of the social media. So this is just a quick look at mine. So nice icon here, making sure that all your top employees, anyone working with marketing, sales, or a business leader needs to have their personal profile updated and looking neat. They have a little wizard, which is basically just takes you step by step through how to make sure your profile's up to date. But make sure you've got all information that's relevant on there. Make sure it's all filled up. And also you can drag and drop to make sure that everything things that are important at the top. So for instance here, I've made sure that marketing direct, even though it's not my most recent role, it's my current role, but normally the more recent roles would go above it, but because 07 is my main sort of focus at the moment, that's at the top. As you can see here, I've kept this quite short and sweet, mainly because you've got to think of mobile devices as well. Education, really good thing for if you want to start joining groups and alumni as well. That's a really good way to sort of introduce you into a group that you've kind of got at least something to sort of talk about initially. And then just keep building your connections sort of with your suggestions. And then if I go to my home. So Hannah's mentioned about hashtags. So hashtags are basically a way of, think of them as a way of tagging or categorizing your posts, so that when people put stuff in the search at the top here, you'll be able to see that they'll be able to search for the hashtags that you're putting out. With hashtags, it's always best for any of the social media platforms just to make sure that when you are doing the hashtags that you have, just trying to find someone this time. Nero's very good at them. So who's Crazy Oxford? So if people were asking, emails, Nero works on email marketing. So as you can see here, if someone's looking for lead generation or email delivery, that this will then be able to make sure that the posts that he's putting out are coming up high to the top. It's also good to make sure you're liking and commenting on people's posts, but also to get likes and comments on your posts to help boost those up. Also, you have pages. So these are the pages that we look after. And you can set yourself up with a business page. Again, make sure everything like that's up to date. And also you can put articles on both your personal page and your business page. What we find works really well is putting it on the business page, because then it's always with the business, but getting the people within your business to then share that post. And that's a really good way of helping generate more traffic. And then just make sure everything keeps nice and branded when you're putting things out. So does anyone have any questions about LinkedIn so far?
You've got a question from Rosie here.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to read it out. What are the best platforms to measure all this engagement for LinkedIn and Twitter? Are they free or better to pay? So
good question, Rosie, and something I'll touch on a bit more at the end. But to answer the question, each of the different social media platforms has their own way of being able to find what engagement you're doing. So you can check through kind of insights, activity, and activity is the thing that you really want to be is a really good measure of how you're getting on. Focusing on those key metrics that I mentioned is important for measuring the success of your strategy, But if your overall activity is going up, then that's a really good sign. There's 3 ones which are basically the ones that are part of the system, but then you've also got paid for ones. Hootsuite's a good sort of introduction one for measuring, and that will help you also be able to schedule posts out, which saves a lot of time, but it also helps manage the activity. There's a few others out there, but I'm happy to send a list or go through those individually if you've got ones that you've looked at and that you've been researching. I'm happy to give you an opinion on those. But to be honest, Hootsuite for our entry level clients is what we use for the scheduling on that side of things. Google Analytics, if you're measuring the amount of traffic going across, again, is a free version. And then we're a HubSpot partner, which is HubSpot is what we use for HubSpot's what we use for sort of our higher end clients that have a sort of bigger budget, and that manages it. Basically, you can see all the information in there. So there's different options depending on where you are with your budget. Maria, yeah, sorry, you wanted to ask a question. Did you want to be unmuted and ask? Yeah, and it might be worth if you unmute Maria, and then she'll.
Might just be an error by the looks of it.
Did you? Okay, we'll carry on. So basically, for each of the platforms in this PDF, I've given you some hints and some tips and things of how to get your engagement up and how to do things and get things done. Most of this stuff, I mean, if you're doing it yourself, there's a lot of stuff available online. As I said, I'm quite happy to do a whole hour on each of these individual software social media platforms, mainly because they do take up so much time. There are nuances for each of them, which I'll hopefully cover a little bit on as we're going through them. But really, with LinkedIn, it's to keep it professional, very much keep it branded. Video content works really, really well on LinkedIn. It works well on all of them, to be honest, but with LinkedIn, it does work really well. Being nice and informative and educational, not being salesy, being aware of people within your network, and really also using it as a tool to be able to see connections. So you can, the great thing about LinkedIn is that you can really focus in on the target audience that you're looking for. So you can look through other people's connections, and if they've got people that you're interested in talking to, then don't be afraid to ask to be able to actually have an introduction. If you've got a sales team member, or if you're in charge of your sales and you see someone that's got a connection of someone that you want to be working with and they're in a position, or even if they're not in a position, reach out, make the connection, get the person in between to make an introduction. It shows you on LinkedIn if there's a mutual connection. So pick your best mutual connection, get an introduction, and that really works well. But yeah, keep everything branded and keep it on point, and don't be overselling. LinkedIn, as all of these now have pay for options, so I've put again some helpful tips and bits with the pay for options. It's not a necessity to start with the pay for options. You will get better results quicker with the paid by utilizing boosting posts, sharing content and promoting content on your social media platforms. Just by the nature of it, what they've done is when they introduce the ads for each of these platforms, what they've then done is taken away a bit of the emphasis and the weight of the organic side of things. So using them as a combination is really good. But if you want quick, instant results, the ads do work well. Just be careful, make sure they all provide training on how to use their own platforms. So my advice is always to go through those. Again, if people are interested in looking at the ad side of things in a bit more detail, I'm happy to go through that in a lot more detail. But they're all very clear and concise. You just have to make sure that you understand the budget and what you're trying to achieve. When you are promoting stuff, be more sales driven. Keep the educational and informative side of things in there, keep the professionalism, but you are allowed to be a bit more salesy, because it is the whole point of this is to raise awareness and to also convert people. Did anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions about LinkedIn at all that I haven't answered? Oh, okay. Sandra, you've asked about the what is best to ask people when you're starting networking in LinkedIn. Networking in LinkedIn is much the same as when you go to a networking meeting. It's just to really start conversations up. Start having conversations, start commenting on the people that you're looking to network with's posts. If you're in groups, put really informative stuff. Put the free stuff that you give away anyway. It's all the type of thing that when you get someone that gives you a call and they ask you a frequently asked question, put something, answer that question, but then answer it to the groups that you're part of, because that's going to really help build trust and confidence, and not come across as too salesy and sort of get people's backs up. So yeah, look at people, start commenting on people's. If they're asking a question or if they need help with something, help them out. If they're, for instance, if they've got a new website and they've asked for opinions on it, give your opinion. If they're looking to hire someone, see if you can help out there. It's all about helping and creating these win-win scenarios, and as it is with all types of business. So does that answer your question, Sandra, for that one? Brilliant. Okay, cool. So next that came along is Facebook, which is the big one that's been in the media quite a lot. Facebook started off as just a way of individuals being able to share photos and comment on photos, and be able to make friends with people and stay in contact with people, which then grew into offering lots of other things, allowing more different types of posts, adding videos to it, adding hashtags, then adding groups, adding pages, adding interest pages, as well as business pages. Facebook are notorious for buying up other companies and introducing other things. They've also added Oculus, so there's like VR, social networking. They've been hitting the media for data protection and things like that, and Apple are about to have given them a massive blow by stopping them being able to focus in as much on their target audiences. Basically what Apple have done is they've introduced iOS 14, which allows you to be able to really manage how software providers are and social media platforms are tracking your data, which is going to make sure that their ads aren't as effective in the way that they were being used previously. Facebook again has different types of ads. You can boost posts, you can actually put advertising out, and also you can promote posts. Facebook is usually B2C for businesses and sort of showing a more informal side of businesses, even those ones that are B2B. With all the social media platforms, it's really important to have a presence on all of them. It's a great way of managing how people are talking about you and discussing what's going on. Because if you're not part of the social, if you're not following at least people mentioning you, you won't be able to then be able to respond to people and join in conversations. So it's really good for B2C. It's really good for competitions for B2C, for driving engagement. As I said, it's nice and informal. It's nice to show the sort of the fun side of your office environment, or the fun side of things that you do. Here you can put things like you're going out and walking your dog and maybe asking questions. Does anyone have a dog? Does anyone find it helpful to have sort of take half hour out of the day to sort of be walking around? If you're a cat person, funny things the cat's doing, all that kind of stuff is okay. Again, keep it branded, keep there being a message of a sort of a business message behind it. Really tips for using it. Making sure you're posting consistently. Your post on here will have a lifespan of probably about 5 hours. 5 hours to 24 hours, depending on people's feeds and how many people they're following and how many friends that they have. So organically, your posts won't be seen that often. Again, these guys have monetized everything, so again, there's a less value on the organic side of things, but that doesn't mean that there being activity on there is difficult. Creating your own groups on here is a really good way of starting to get conversations going, and the Facebook Messenger, as sort of a side part of this, can also be put onto your website quite easily as a live chat, which is great. You can also have a live chat so that the people can just start talking to you on Facebook. You can put something called a bot in there. So bots are basically you'll sometimes, I imagine, you've seen them when you go into a live chat and they reply instantly. They ask your name, they ask your email address, they ask you to what you're interested in. That's a bot. So basically you can pre-program those questions. There's different levels of intelligence with the bots. You can get bots that actually can recognize keywords and ask other questions, or you can just get them asking the most simple questions, which is what's your name, what's your email address, sort of capture that information. Again, video is fantastic for on here. So that's a really good way. So if we move on to the organic side of things, and again, with all the social media platforms, use the resources, use what you have to hand. If you have friends, if you're a smaller business and you're starting out and you've got friends, ask them to help you out. If you've got, if you're in a bigger business, make sure all the staff are aware of what the business does and that you're posting on social media, and you'd like them to share information, and also you'd like them to be able to like and comment. So really help get that engagement up internally, and with close contacts is a really good way of sort of starting the fire, which is the hardest thing to do, is to start getting those promoters of your business. With all the social media platforms, don't try to cheat. Don't go out and buy a big social media following. So for instance, on Facebook, don't go out and buy a load of followers for your business page. It doesn't work. The idea of all the social media is that you although it's great, the only advantage to that is that you're seen as a bit bigger as a company. The downside is, as soon as people look past that follow amount, they're going to see your engagement. So they're going to see that only 5 or 6 people are liking your posts. If you've got 10,000 followers and only 5 or 6 people are liking your posts, you're going to lose that trust, because people aren't silly, and they're going to understand that actually you've probably just bought those. Also, what we're trying to achieve with social media is we're trying to get networking going, and it's a really great way of building trust before people come over to your brand or come over to the to your company, and to help them buy into that. So it's really important to just be as honest and transparent as possible. Now, that doesn't mean you can't show yourself to be a bigger company than you are. What I'm saying is, don't portray you're a multinational company if you're not, because again, there's so much, people do so much research now before. 60% of the buyer's journey is done before they even pick up the phone or start engaging with you. So they spend time on social media, they spend time on your website. So just be nice and transparent on there. If your branding's nice and clean, and there's a correlation and sort of a trend with your posts, and you're staying on point, and even the sort of informal stuff has some association to the company or the service or the product that you're selling, then that's all fine, and people are going to really start engaging with that. So make sure, as with LinkedIn, that your business page is set up. Make sure it's all up to date. Make sure you got your opening times on there and things like that. Even if it's not going to be a platform that you really see yourself spending too much time on, because you're not going to get the engagement that you want, make sure it's all set up properly. Make sure it's all looking nice, because there will be the odd person that comes to it, but also from search engine optimization and when people are checking you out. I mean, whenever we get for those that hire people, the first thing you do when you're looking at someone's CV is that you'll check out their social media, you'll check out their LinkedIn, and you'll check out the company that they've worked for. The same thing happens with marketing and with sales. They'll look at, right, how often are they posting on Facebook? How often they post on LinkedIn? How does their LinkedIn page look? How does their YouTube channel look? If you've got these links on your websites, please make sure that they're looking how they should do. Know exactly who you're targeting, really important. Copy is really important with this. Make sure the tone fits with your company. If you have sort of informal misspelled things, it doesn't look good if you're, say, for instance, a financial company, because people are trusting you with one of their biggest and most concentrated on assets, which is the money. They need to know that they can trust you to be able to put some copy and put some nice imagery on to a social media platform. With the ads, it's better with the Facebook ads, you can be really, really targeted, which is a big sort of stumbling block for a lot of people that get started. Facebook have an algorithm that basically does a lot of the hard work for you. It's just about monitoring and making sure you tweak certain key terms and monitor them so that you can make adjustments. But as far as outreaching and creating an audience goes, don't be too specific. Be specific enough. Say, for instance, if you're we have a wedding supplier business that we work with. So for the bridal shops, we obviously put it to females. Now, we don't go too much further into it. We also go for those that are engaged, but we don't go anything more than that, because we allow the Facebook algorithm to take its course. They've also got lots of training courses on there, and they're really, really helpful. I'm lucky enough that one of my friends actually has worked for Google for the last 22 months, and he works with their big marketing clients, and this is sort of what he said and what he recommends. So it's got a lot of weight to it. So trust their algorithm. Only be sparing and don't be too defined with your targeting, but take advantage of the targeting to make sure that you are cutting out those that are definitely not going to be interested, rather than those that possibly are going to be interested. And for those that are already managing ads, as I said, be careful, because they will take a dive if you're not monitoring them closely, because of this the new Apple updates that are coming out. Does anyone have any questions about Facebook? How do you target? So that's with the ads, and that will allow, the ads has a wizard which will basically take you through and give you the drop down. So those that have got personal Facebook accounts will know that they get asked questions about what kind of music you're into, what's your school year, what's your age, where do you live, those types of demographics, so that you'll have those options, so you'll be able to target in that way. I'm just conscious of time. YouTube, only a few of you are on YouTube. So first post. So YouTube's owned by Google. So if you're doing any search engine optimization work, Google's a really great, Facebook's a really great way of getting on the good side of Google. Google loves to see video content on your website, and they love to see that it's from YouTube, not that they would ever say that. YouTube video content's fantastic, and having it linked to YouTube, the benefit of doing that is that then they can see a catalogue of all your videos. With YouTube, it's really again about comments and likes and dislikes. So getting those likes up, subscribers are really important, sort of to grow yourself organically. But just make sure, try and keep it round about a minute long, unless you've got something really, really good to say, or you're sharing a webinar, or you've got lots of good content. Keeping things to about a minute is normally how much interest people have got. So if you have got bigger, chunkier content, try and promote the smaller bits of content that are easier to digest and easier to sort of grab people's attention, rather than trying to do a big sort of maybe a demo of the product that you've got and spending half hour on it. Do a short one, but have it then linked to a bigger one. With YouTube, my advice is always to try and use some photo editing software rather than just some video editing software, rather than just chucking it straight up there. It allows you to be able to add sort of images to the video quite simply. There's lots of simple ones out there that are quite easy to get started with. There's also lots of complicated ones. We use Premiere Pro from Adobe, but if anyone wants a list of those, then please just ask afterwards. Again, you'll get all of these, so I'm not going to go through them all, but thumbnails are really important. So make sure that first opening screen that you see, or the thumbnail, that you can actually pick a thumbnail to have, which is either from the video or an image. Make sure that grabs their attention. That's because that's the thing that's going to keep them interested. So that's really important. As far as paid for stuff on YouTube, as I said, keep things short. If you're paying for an ad, it's not going to be what people are looking for. So having it sort of 15, 30 seconds is great to give them a little snapshot, a little teaser of what your product does, or the service offering that you've got, and to really draw them across and make them come across to wherever that you're sort of the funnel that you're trying to push them through. Does anyone have any questions on YouTube at all? I was a bit quick on there. So if anyone has anything specific on YouTube. Right, okay. Twitter. So Twitter has been in the news a lot recently, especially with the COVID stuff and Piers Morgan, and then obviously even a bit more Donald Trump. This is more, not so much about brands, it's more about individuals, even probably more so than LinkedIn, I would say. So if you've got any people, high profile people within your business, the business owner, if you're client facing yourself, is to really make sure that you're keeping things professional. You have a business Twitter account, business personal, so a personal one that's tied to your business. So for instance, I have two Twitter accounts. I have my own personal one, but I also have a business one that's for all the business stuff. On here, be careful what you put, as in with all social media. Keep things on brand, but this is more for conversational stuff. It's more about sort of chatting to people. It's more informal, so people will normally put stuff of that's a bit more personal to them. So it's a lot easier to start conversations up on here, or at least joining conversations with other people, like-minded people. It's more B2C. And what businesses find, and the businesses we look after find, it's more for people that are reaching out for customer service and for questions if it's difficult to get hold of someone through the telephone. Twitter's taken a lot from Instagram. Basically, Twitter started off as just called microblogging originally, and it was limited due to a set amount of characters, and that's all you could put. So it was just really small snapshots of information that were going up. They've extended that now, so you get more characters. You can now put images on. You can now put videos on. But they have also stolen bits from other bits. So now you can put stories on like you can on Instagram. So Twitter is really about snapshots. So think about grabbing people's attention. Again, you're not looking to deceive people, but we still want to encourage people to stop as they're scrolling through the endless feed. I've put on there about evergreen tweets. Evergreen content is content that will always be relevant. So for example, if I was to do a blog post about the 3 different ways of growing your business through marketing, more clients, adding more value to your products, adding more products or services. So that's something that's been around since marketing was a thing. It's always been the case. So that would be evergreen content if we write about that. Now, what you can do is have little bits like that, asking questions. Oh, how's everyone's Wednesday? Little bits like that you keep in your back pocket, that if you can't think of anything to put, you've then got these generic bits of content that you can just pull out as and when you need them. Hashtags are great. Hashtags started from Twitter was the first, sort of the person that really sort of drove these to the forefront. As a way of branding, they normally have trending comments, so you'll be able to see within Twitter the top 10 trending things. Keep an eye on that. If there's anything that you're talking about or anything that your product or service relates to, or a problem that's out there that you can solve, really have a look at those people that are commenting using those hashtags and start trying to engage with them. But as far as organically goes, keep things short, keep things sweet. Don't get hung up on the sort of the bigger content that you would do on LinkedIn, and sort of to a smaller level Facebook. Does anyone have any questions about Twitter? Nope. Rosie, so a website card is something that you can put in that basically they've introduced, and it's just a little card that basically has a link on it. So you attach an image to it, and you can attach that as as part of your tweet, so that actually it has some visual side of things rather than just being a standard link. But I'm happy to send you across. They've done a really good article on it, so I'm happy to send that across. Make a note of that. So with the paid for side of things on Twitter, in all honesty, it's not something that we've used in very much at all. I think we've had 1 or 2 clients maximum that our social media experts used it for. As I said, it's more of a personal thing, Twitter, and it's more about personal views and things like that. There's a lot more controversy, as Donald Trump has proven, being the first person ever to be banned from Twitter. So it's more about the personal side, more about informal. So we don't really get into the paid for side of things, because it's not about getting the conversions for the clients and things. But if you do have any questions specifically about the ads on Twitter, then let me know. But Twitter is a really good way if you've got someone that you're a target client, is to really look at Twitter, because you'll hopefully be able to find, if they do use Twitter, they'll be putting a lot of information up there to get the conversation started for your sales team. So last and by no means least, Instagram. So Instagram's the newest of the sort of the social media platforms that we're looking at the moment. It's owned by Facebook, was bought out by them a few years ago. Ignore Microsoft as a typo. With with Instagram, again, it's a bit more about the personal side of things. It works best, we find, with those that have products and services that are very visual. And again, it's a great way of adding a more personalized side to the brand. I did have one question on Instagram that was sent beforehand, which was how to make people make money on Instagram. So with regards to Instagram, the whole aim of Instagram is to get to 10,000 followers. Once you get to 10,000 followers, you can start then getting that swipe up that you'll see. The great thing about that is then you can start pushing them to web pages from those posts and the posts that you're putting up and the stories. It's really about sort of the personal side of things from both a brand perspective and from an individual. The nice thing about the stories, the way the best we find using it is keep the posts on the actual page to really good content that you're happy with to be on there for ages. What we do if it doesn't get a really good engagement is we normally just archive it, which means that you don't lose the activity from it, but it means that it's just not visible on your feed for people to then start liking it in the later date. Like Twitter, it's a very good way to start getting to know people personally, but the way people make money from it is by having a big enough follow that they can then do ads, a bit like you get, for instance, I think it's David Beckham with his tag watches. He'll be wearing that on Instagram, so people will be paid to be able to advertise. There was a big hoo-ha about it a few years ago, so now people have to put if it's an ad. But basically, it's for example, it's for fashion people. It's for fashion people wearing certain clothes. They'll tag the people that are in them, and with the hope of then driving up the audience of the other person, and also, like with all social media, is really just engaging with the following. How do you find out which of your hashtags on Instagram are attracting the most interaction? Yeah, Hannah's right with the Love Islanders. If you've got a big following and it's basically sort of the sheep mentality. If you see someone that you really admire wearing something or doing something or going somewhere that you really want to go, you'll then want to go there yourself. How do you find out which of the hashtags on Instagram are attracting the most interaction? Hashtag Expert is a really good download. There is a free version and a paid for version for helping with finding out those hashtags. Also, when you are hashtagging, it will tell you the amount of people that are following that hashtag or using that hashtag. So my advice is don't go too high end. Just try and find some middle ground. We usually work on those that are 200,000 or less for the hashtags as a kind of sweet spot, because you're more likely to get interaction and engagement from those. There's lots of extra little apps that you can do it to use on it. Boomerang's a really good one, sort of just doing a video that goes sort of forward and then rewinds in sort of in real time as well. The ad side of things works very similarly to Facebook. You can find out what people are hashtagging, demographics, what they're interested in, what they've mentioned in their bio. So again, it's a really good way of targeting people and getting that information and finding people that are interested in what you do. Also, what you'll find is there's also tools. So what we can do is also use Instagram to be able to go through and take off data. So it's called scraping. So we can find data on people that are using certain hashtags. And if their email address is visible, so you have obviously privacy settings set there, you can also grab that information as you're going through, so that it helps create these email lists. And also helps get some soft interaction with your brand. What I'll do quickly before we go is just give you some examples, like I did with the Instagram. With the Facebook. With the LinkedIn. So here's sort of a look at someone we've worked with for Facebook. As you can see, these guys do ads. And the really great thing about it is that the question was asked before about metrics. These guys give you all the metrics that you could want. As you can see here, we spend a lot of time making sure that they stay on brand. As you can see, their logo is always visible. We're tagging things in there for the shop. And you can see there's the same kind of setup and things. With the YouTube as well, you can see here we work with Wild Your Garden. It's all about keeping your garden and stuff so that it encourages wildlife and doesn't. So for instance, all these people that put artificial grass down that stops the wildlife coming into their gardens. If you like badgers in your garden or you want butterflies in your garden, this guy can help do that. As you can see here, it's a mixture of content with the 2 minutes, the sort of shorter videos, but also there's the long ones in there for sort of that allow people to be able to watch more content if they want to watch more content. This is a lady that we work with, again, with her following. And that's all about, again, her personal side of things, her personal brand. But this is a cake, which is a nice one to work with. As you can see here.
Can I just say they are the best. So Luke and I both live in the same area in Essex, and I know Gemma and Will, if anyone came to our anniversary event a few years ago, they actually did the cakes for us as well, but they are amazing. Through lockdown, that's kind of what's helped me survive and stay sane. So it's a great client to have.
Yeah, they're great. Their business ethos and their brand. If you look across their brand now, their website was terrible, but luckily they came with us for it, and we've got it so it all fits in now. So all their branding is all on point. If you go onto their website, the images are the same. All their stories are have a sort of a connection. So it's really good to make sure that you're and important to make sure that the message on your social media platforms reflects on your website as well. But yeah, hopefully that's all helped. In regards to, just as an overview of the types of things you should be posting, frequently asked questions are really good way. Pain points from your clients, imagery that includes your logo or people doing or using the products or services that you're doing, engaging with your target audience, but as well as with people that bother to spend time promoting you. Encourage those promoters. If you have someone that keeps promoting you, if you have a product and a low value product, or is to be able to just make sure that you're giving them something back. It's a really great way for them to be able to showcase your product as well, or the service if you give them a freebie. Because you can just say it with the proviso. So for instance, with Wodible, we've got a couple of people that are just natural promoters of it. So we just send them every so often, we send them a free pair of socks. And they're over the moon. They post about it. They keep liking, they keep commenting, they keep sharing. So it keeps our activity up. So working with that organically as well as then with the paid side of things, it allows them to be able to has allowed them to be able to achieve really good growth. Keep your imagery clean. It's fine using your mobile device for images and for the videos, but just make sure they're not all shaky. Make sure your background's nice. I mean, for me, I can't unfortunately get rid of the thing in the background, but that's just a part of me. But do make sure that it's still clean, it's tidy. And you'll see some of the Instagram people that put like bedroom photos with it being untidy. Obviously, same thing applies to offices. Make sure your office is clean before you're taking a video or doing taking a picture. But yeah, make sure you're active and don't waste time on the platforms that aren't going to be driving your aren't where your target audience is hanging out. But do make sure you're still posting on there. You take all this time and effort to take a picture, write the content. Just put it onto the other social media platforms, but just don't spend time worrying about interacting with people on there. Interact with people on your chosen platforms. Does anyone have any questions at all? I know that's a load of information again. Marketing is such a big subject and social media is again, still a big subject within marketing. But hopefully that's given you a kind of quick overview of the different platforms and some tips to get going. So good photo editing and video editing software. Canva is one that a lot of clients use before we get involved. Spark is the one we use from Adobe, which is very good for Instagram and for the shorter, quicker posts. For anything sort of major, we use Adobe Premiere Pro for our videos, and we use Views for the videos as well. So Adobe Views is the video side of things. There's lots out there, but those are the ones I'd recommend. Canva's one that our clients a lot like using when they're putting their own posts up, if we haven't set them up with a Spark account. So hopefully that answers that question. And does anyone else have any questions at all? So yeah, my final bit of advice is stick with it. It's not going to be something that gives you instant results unless you start with ads, and even then it's still a progressive thing. But if anyone has any questions or anything specific, or if anyone would like the hour spent really going through and sort of me just doing a tutorial of getting an ad campaign up and running, or putting some posts up on an individual platform and then watching it and how to actually physically do the bits that I've spoken about, then please let Hannah know. I'm more than happy to help out the group. It's a really great group, and it's really been good fun being part of the journey that Hannah's gone on. But I'm on the forum and I'm on the Slack channel as well. So if you do have any questions that you don't want to bother Hannah with, then please by all means just find me on there.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Luke. That was fab. I was just going to reiterate about the Slack. So Luke joined that yesterday. So there's an Ask an Expert channel. So no matter at what time, Luke's a partner of the portal, so he'll be in there. So you can always just tag at Luke. You can obviously direct message him on Slack or within the portal, or ask it in the open channels for help and advice at any time, and reach out to him. And obviously, if you want any more support in terms of his services, then reach out as well. There's a multitude of things that he can help you with in your business with. So do reach out if you need that now or in the future. Luke, thank you very much. It's a minefield. It really is.
There's so much content. It's
yeah.
But hopefully those PDFs are the reason I didn't go through them word for word. They'll be sent out, and as I said, most of the stuff's applicable for all different types of social media. It's just about knowing the tone to use. But good luck with everything. I hope everything goes well with everyone. But as I said, don't get frustrated if you don't get instant results. That's not how marketing works, unfortunately.
Absolutely, got to be in it for the long haul, right? Fab. Yeah, well, as Luke said, we'll send this out and we'll upload the recording to YouTube as well, so it'll be there for you to view in the future if you need to go back to it. Thank you so much, Luke. Really good to see you.
Good to see you all, and everyone stay safe. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.